In a narrow wooden drawer, wrapped in a faded handkerchief, a medal lay forgotten. For decades, it remained untouched, unspoken of, a simple piece of tarnished metal that held a chapter of a life its owner never learned how to explain. That owner was Frank Holloway, 92 years old. When he finally opened that drawer again, his hands shook, not just from age but from the immense weight of memory. The house around him was quiet, filled with the stillness that only homes of the elderly possess. Frank never spoke much about the war. To neighbors he'd just say, "I did my job." His children knew not to press for more. His late wife was the last person who understood his silences. And when she passed, the stories were locked away, just like the medal. Back in 1944, Frank was barely 20. He'd grown up in the Great Depression, learning to work hard without complaint. He enlisted without ceremony, a firm handshake from his father, a long hug from his mother, and he was gone. Combat was a brutal teacher. He learned the sound of incoming fire, the constant hum of fear in his chest, and the truth that bravery wasn't heroic. It was just doing what had to be done, hoping you'd survive. The day he earned that medal was never mentioned. It was a freezing morning, orders had broken down and chaos reigned. A unit ahead was pinned down, their radio silent. Without waiting for a command, Frank moved forward through smoke and debris. He carried messages, pulled wounded men to safety, and stayed long after it was safe. He didn't remember making a choice. He just remembered moving. Because of him, several men lived who otherwise might not have. But what haunted him were the faces of those who didn't. When the medal was pinned on him weeks later, it felt heavy, undeserved. He folded it away and never wore it again. After the war, he returned home, married, raised a family, and simply moved on. The medal followed him from house to house, drawer to drawer, until even he forgot where it was. Years turned into decades. His hair thinned, his hands softened with age, friends passed, and parades came and went. The world changed, but the faces of young soldiers on TV always looked the same. It wasn't until his granddaughter came to visit that the drawer was finally opened. She was helping him clean when she found it, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Grandpa," she asked softly, "what's this?" Frank sat down, the silence stretching. Then, for the first time, he spoke. Not about everything, not the worst parts, but enough. He told her the facts, the memories, his voice trembling only once before it steadied. His granddaughter listened, not just to the story but to him. She listened like it mattered. Like he mattered. Word of his story spread. A local veterans group reached out, proposing a small ceremony to honor him. Frank hesitated. He never wanted attention, but something had shifted. He agreed, not for himself, but for the men who never came home. On the day of the ceremony, he stood tall as the medal was placed in his hands once more. This time it felt different, lighter. He wasn't a hero, he insisted, but a witness. The medal went back into the drawer, but it wasn't hidden anymore. It lay in an open case, visible, remembered, honored. The medal was never about the medal or the ribbon. It was about a young man who stepped forward when it counted, and then spent a lifetime carrying the cost in silence. And now, finally, the world had paused just long enough to remember him. Thanks for watching. If stories like this move you, please consider subscribing to our channel.